Chris Watkin back again for another estate agency story. And today I'm joined by Paul Leslie, who is an estate agent from West London. He has worked for corporate estate agents and has now set up his own business, been in business now for 3 or 4 years. Um, he's going to tell me about his story of how he came to be an estate agent, his ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, so you can learn lots from it. Thank you for joining me today, Paul.
Thank you for having me.
What I'd like to do is go back in time. Tell me where you were born and tell me a bit about your parents.
I was born in Norfolk Park Hospital to Alda and Mark, and a few years later, about 3.5 years later, my brother came along, Oliver, and we lived the archetypical British family life. Really nice family upbringing. Went to good schools. Didn't want for anything, and then my mum and dad sadly separated when I was 17 and my brother was 14, so that was a kind of a difficult time.
You still at school at the time?
Yeah. I think I might have been at college.
Okay. Did you know what you wanted to be when you were growing up?
I had no idea. I still don't.
None of us do we?
No.
Was your mum a stay-at-home mum or did she have a job?
She had a job. She took some time off when both myself and my brother were born. But yeah, she worked for the civil service for a long, long time.
Okay. What did your mum teach you as you were growing up? And then following on, what did your dad teach you?
It's an interesting question. I think my mum taught us both compassion. My mum's side of the family is Italian, so quite emotive.
I thought so with the first name, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, taught us kind of to be affectionate and how to love, and I'd say be really compassionate and kind.
Do you still have family in Italy?
I do. We don't see them anymore, sadly. We used to go every year religiously during the summer, and it was some of my favourite sort of holidays. Those were.
But then the next generation's gone on, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like. What did your dad teach you?
He taught me work ethic, integrity, professionalism. So yeah, really, really grateful for those values that he instilled.
What line of business did your dad do?
He worked for a company called Gate Gourmet that did the catering for British Airways flights out of Heathrow. Started on the shop floor and then worked his way up to director level.
So at night times, you were those little tinfoil things
Yes.
for tea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was only joking. And
You've got to take advantage of it, haven't you?
You certainly have. You certainly have. So you left college at 18?
I did.
Did you go to
art
uni?
design at college, believe it or not.
Right.
Again, my dad had quite an artistic side, which I think I inherited from him. And I liked bits of it. I liked computer-aided design and graphic design, but I didn't like sort of still life drawing and things like that. So lost a little bit of interest. Don't think I officially finished my course. And then I went straight into full-time employed work.
What was that?
I worked for London Transport. And actually my dad, talk about integrity and work ethic. My dad actually, because he used to travel frequently into central London on the weekends, and he saw the advert for sort of train staff, customer service assistant, and he was on at me to get work, and he contacted them, got the form and filled it in on my behalf, and then I passed the telephone interview and then subsequently passed the in-person interview. So.
And I think also, whilst you were at college, you were working in a pub, weren't you?
I did. I worked in my local pub. A guy called Donny, who latterly became a bit of a father figure to me. Again, some of the customer service values. I remember just being, I wouldn't say borderline sort of frightened, but mostly just out of respect. And this is back when you could smoke in pubs, and if he came back into the pub and there was an ashtray that wasn't clean, he would just hit the roof, and it was just those constant sort of standards that he had.
What early lessons did you learn about dealing with people that have stayed with you since, working in both the pub and London Transport?
I think, going back to the London Transport thing and sort of Donny, with Donny it wasn't any sort of formal training, it was just learning from him and seeing him, how some of the senior staff they'd been around him a longer time than I had, and then absorbing from them. And then with London Transport, I had some amazing customer service teachings.
Both of those roles will be dealing with high pressure situations. How did you deal with them and how have they helped you subsequently?
I think maybe if I go back to some of the things that my mum taught me, and I think my dad to a certain extent, is I seem to be able to empathise and put myself in the shoes of individual people in any given situation, and also sometimes I'm able to separate myself emotionally from it, and I think that that's the biggest skill set that I've been able to. And it's any situation like that, I call it customer service, essentially it's a negotiation, isn't it? And I think that that's the biggest skill set that I personally bring to those situations.
You then decided to go into accountancy.
I did. So in 2006, I lost my father. He was aged 50 to bowel cancer. And at that point, I kind of did.
Your parents had obviously split.
They'd separated at that point. Yeah.
Did you live with your mum?
I lived with my dad. Yeah, strangely enough.
Oh,
yeah.
right, that's different.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And again, probably for another story, that one. But yeah, it was a little bit of a strange situation. But me and my brother both stayed in the family house with my dad.
How did his passing hit you?
Really, yeah, it's devastating, to be honest with you.
How long? What was the time scale between being? Did they catch it late, or?
I think they caught it quite late. He went to the doctors a couple of times, and they said that he was way too young to even be sort of tested or properly screened for that. And then when they caught it, I think it was too late. So he had a major operation, and then lots and lots of chemotherapy, and then sadly it took him away in August of 2006.
How old were you then?
I was 24.
So you're still living at home with your brother?
Yeah.
I can't imagine how that was.
No, and it's when I talked, my dad was an extremely proud person, house proud, the way that he sort of carried himself. He always wore really nice clothes, always well turned out, and then it stripped him of all his dignity. He was in a hospital bed in our front room, and having sort of palliative care at home for a long period of time. So that was tough.
What did you learn from that?
I think that I learned. I don't know whether I think something changed in me in terms of I then wanted to leave a legacy, and that's why I went down the accountancy route. But my dad worked incredibly hard for a corporate company, and then essentially there was no pathway for me and my brother to follow in his footsteps, whether we wanted to or not. And I something within me, and then lastly my son came along, but I've always subsequently thought that that's what I want. I want something, whether my son or if I was going to have a son or not, I just wanted to leave some sort of legacy behind.
So what year did you go and work for the accountancy then?
I started with the accountancy probably 2007, I'd say.
And do you think it was your father's passing that was the catalyst to say, I don't want to work for London Transport anymore?
Yeah, I had a really good time working for London Transport. I was paid incredibly well for the age that I was. Got lots and lots of holiday, was able to manipulate shift patterns and stuff like that. So I had a really great time, made some really good friends there. I didn't see it as a long-term career. And then with the passing of my father, I decided that I wanted something that was a career in accountancy. I'd always been interested in numbers. I'd done fairly well with maths at school, and that I had a friend that was in accountancy practice, and I approached him and said, listen, I'm interested. Could you get me an interview? And he did.
But it could have been another profession, but you just wanted something a little bit more professional with a small p.
Yeah. With something with longevity.
How long were you in accountancy for?
I was there for about, I'd say 2.5 years, and I did a qualification alongside my employment there, which I loved. I did the AAT qualification, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Unfortunately, this isn't to make excuses, but I joined a little bit. Typically, people either go straight from school to do the AAT there, or they come out of university and do the ACCA or ACA qualifications. Because I joined a little bit out of kilter, I didn't really have a group, and I was getting thrown into jobs that I wasn't confident to be doing. And then I lost confidence in myself, in the job, and then I felt like I was, like a bit of a spare part there, to be honest with you. But I persevered with the qualification, and once I finished that, I decided to leave the accountancy firm.
Are you still living in the family home at this point?
No, I'd moved in with my brother. And actually, one of the silver lining is that me and my brother had a fairly fractious relationship. There's a 3.5 years age gap. There's a lot of competition.
So you sold the family home and bought a home between you, did you?
We rented. Yeah. But yeah, it brought me and my brother closer together.
But then after getting your qualifications, you then moved into football.
I did, and I've played football since a very young age and been hugely passionate about it. It's also been the source of some of my closest friendships, even today. Um, and to get a job working for the Football Association, albeit smaller Middlesex, was like a dream job to me. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that also feel the same way, so it was almost like a volunteer wage, to be honest with you. And it was fairly easy for me. I got to wear a tracksuit to work, and it was very sort of chilled out vibe there. But again, it wasn't something that was going to give me the job satisfaction that would take me on to sort of a long-term career there.
So the gypsy blood kicked in,
Yeah.
and you left the Football Association in 2013 and moved to Crown World Mobility.
I did, yes. Sadly, it was actually so the numbers of in participation at all levels of local football were dwindling, and the company decided to make redundancies, and sadly I was made redundant from that position. And at that point, again, reached out to my friends, and somebody was working for Crown World Mobility. I only knew Crown Paint, so I'd no idea who Crown were. World Mobility, no idea what that was either. And then I started there, and it was like I felt like I was a duck to water, because I love helping people, and I'm fairly well organised.
And what were your roles there then?
So I started off assisting what they would call the mobility consultants. So the mobility consultants would be the people that were coordinating somebody's move from abroad to the UK. So I was just sort of assisting them with booking temporary accommodation or sourcing a home search consultant for somebody's.
Oh, sorry. With a name like that, I thought you were helping people with mobility.
I know,
scooters.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, no.
So basically, you were a relocation agent, or
Exactly. Yeah. So I was sort of assisting the office-based coordination, and then Natalie was coordinating that office-based role.
What did you learn at the relocation agency, Crown Mobility, that's helped you in a state agency?
I think that I would always try and solve a problem myself rather than go. And I remember my line manager at the time would say, "I only find out about a problem that you've got or have had after you've solved it." And I'd have people, some quite high-profile transferees, saying to me that they'd come to me over their local HR, because I would always find a way to find a solution. So I think that
That's quite a military thing. I've got two ladies that work for me, and they basically ring me up and tell me what the problem is and how they've solved it.
yeah, and I don't know that that's necessarily something that's been ingrained in me in the past, but it's just something that I've taken on board. And I always think that, use a bit of initiative, and even if you're not confident in solving the problem yourself, propose 2 or 3 solutions to the person you're asking the problem is, because it's easy to identify a problem.
And I'm led to believe that when you were at Crown Mobility, you saved them 150 grand.
Yeah, ballpark. So they did an initiative where they looked at their biggest overhead spends, as most good businesses will do, and they were outsourcing their home search consultants. And they decided that they would have 2 full-time home search consultants, which were the people on the ground actually taking the transferees out. So I volunteered, albeit I'd never done it before. And I started doing that and sort of pioneered it, I guess. And then there was another lady, Hayley, that joined off the back of that, and it saved the business unit, 150 grand.
2016, the gypsy blood kicked in again, and you went to Fratelli.
I did. So I started up my own. So I haven't mentioned this, but off the back of losing my dad, me and my brother inherited some money, not life-changing, but enough to sort of dabble in some property development business. And we were largely doing that as a sideline, but I really wanted to concentrate on doing that. So I felt like being a freelance consultant would give me a bit more flexibility and time. So yeah, I started my own business, and then the idea was to supplement that with.
So you were flipping homes and also being a part-time relocation agent.
Yeah, that's where the Fratelli. Yeah, because Fratelli is brothers in Italian. So yeah, it was me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And and what job did your brother do?
He was. He's a qualified plasterer. He's subsequently qualified to be a carpenter as well. So kind of a general builder, but skilled plasterer.
So as a chippy and a plasterer, And also doing houses up. And you were a relocation agent, also doing houses up.
Yeah, I gave the sort of the creative side of things. Ollie was very much the hands-on, and he's super organised as well in terms of getting first, second fixes done at the right time, contractors all in at the right times. He's absolutely brilliant at that.
You still haven't hit a state agency yet.
I
When
know.
did the penny drop and you finally crossed the line?
Oh, it's an interesting one. So because of being a home search consultant, what my sort of typical day would be reaching out to a multitude of corporate services, and then they would distribute the searches to relevant offices. So I'd built a relationship with the corporate service departments of a number of corporate estate agencies, and I'd also then built relationships with agents in different pockets of London as well. So it felt like a natural step for me. So at the point I decided, and the point was that my partner at the time was pregnant, and I felt that freelance and the property development thing, I needed something more stable and again more sort of career focused. So I approached a few agencies, and I was lucky enough to be offered a couple of positions with with a couple of really reputable agencies. I chose Savills at the time because I liked the caliber of properties that they represent. And then, again, when I was a relocation agent, you'd be surprised, even though it was like the golden carrot of a search, still the agents would turn up late, forget that they booked an appointment. You'd ask them for certain information, they wouldn't supply it. So, but Savills were one of the better ones at sort of supplying that information.
My wife and I have not been blessed with children, so I don't know what it's like. But share with me because you said earlier on about 10 minutes ago, legacy, and you mentioned your son then. So we'll bring you. What did it mean to you when you knew that you were going to be a father?
I was absolutely petrified, if I'm honest. It wasn't planned. Although
How long have you been together?
I think we've been together about a year, something like
Okay,
that.
and how long you lived together?
Not long at all. Not
Okay,
long at all. Yeah. So we were living in. I was sharing a flat with my friend, my best friend Mark, and he'd met a girl around the same time, so we're both spending a lot of time, and both his partner and my partner at the time got on well. So yeah, but it was totally kind of a bolt out of the blue.
how did it make you feel?
As I said, petrified, but excited as well because my brother had announced that he was having a baby in the December, and then kind of if the dates aligned and Susie had decided that she wanted Raf, which she did, thank God, then Raf's 3 months older than his cousin. So all of those things about those you start envisaging them growing up and stuff like that. So it became exciting.
And do you think that was the catalyst that made you think, actually, okay, I've got a partner, but also I've got a child on the way. You know, you were successful up for a telly, weren't you?
Yeah. I was, and I just felt that I just wanted something stable, and I would always, when I had the freelancing business, although I was supplementing it with the property development business, if one of those stopped and then we couldn't find another one, that sort of revenue stream would have diminished completely. And also, I'd look at my diary sometimes 2 weeks in advance, and I'd have no bookings, and it's like, well, what if that relocation company goes bust and I don't get any more bookings? So I wanted something that was
Are you a
stable.
born worrier?
Yeah, yeah. My mum said to me, I come out of school like 4 or 5 years old with the most worried look on my face, and she'd like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing," but yeah, just a born worry, and definitely get that from my mum.
Your partner, is she a worrier?
Um, she no, she's not really. No.
Are you a half glass empty sort of person then?
I don't know. I think I can be a bit of a pessimist, but
Okay.
equally, I think I've taken risks in my life that suggest otherwise. But I don't know.
It's either high risk or no risk then, nothing in between.
Um, Educated risks, I think.
Okay. So you went and worked for Savills.
I did.
Were you still doing a bit of property on the side?
No, and a part of kind of being offered that job was to say that I cut all ties with sort of. They wanted me to be fully focused on the job in hand, which was fair enough.
When you joined Savills, it was pretty much an uphill battle from day one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Is it what you expected?
No, no, because the office had been there for 3 or 4 years, and Savills as a brand is one of the most prestigious in its industry. So I expected it to be a lot more established than it was, and having no full-on agency experience to
What
come into that.
what role did you have?
I started off as a lettings negotiator.
Okay.
Yeah, so coming into that and not having any stock at the time to let was a little bit of a curveball for me, but they were very reasonable and they extended my guarantee and stuff like that, so they made sure I wasn't short.
Did you ever think to yourself that you'd made the wrong decision in the early days going to Savills?
No, it was really exciting. It was really exciting. You know how big a company it is, but when you get immersed in it, you go to the head office at Margaret Street, and and then they tell you that you can get a right to rent check done in Hawaii, and someone can walk into an office. So it's a really, really impressive business to be part of. So no, and I did really well there, and they were fully supportive of me as an individual. They pushed me forward, and gave me a lot of really valuable training.
What did you learn by, you said a minute ago that you had no stock to let. Was your job to go and get new business then?
No, it wasn't initially, but I mean, I can't remember the timeframes particularly accurately now, but my manager at the time, she left shortly after I joined, and then it was kind of me on my own again. And then I had
So you
to,
should have had a lettings manager and you're the lettings neg and you basically ran the department.
yeah. I mean, yeah, how well I ran it at that particular time, I don't know, but then there was nobody else to go out and try and win stock, and I quickly won a development that came across from sales, but it was on multi-agency and we got sold on the letting side. So I quickly was able to sort of adapt, and then I threw my hat into the ring for the lettings manager's job, even though I'd only been there, I think, about 3 months, and they said it's unheard of to even apply. But I was fortunate enough that they gave me a chance, and again, the office did incredibly well.
You said earlier on that you're really into your statistical analysis side of your brain. What did you learn from that on how to win clients?
Um, I, I, I suppose I just quickly adapted to the tools that you're given. So with Savills, obviously, it's the network of offices that you've got, the international presence. I think that, and I remember interviewing with a guy at Marsh and Parsons that I thought was really, really, really good. And he said something to me that stuck with me, and I'd never really thought of it myself, but he said that you're very credible. And I think that that's probably one of the things that enables me to, I might not be the most polished sort of presenter in a living room. I might have a bit of a monotone voice and stuff like that, but I think that I tell the truth and that comes across.
Well, I was impressed when you were on Simon Gates's podcast, and I listened to the whole lot, and I thought, I like him. I'm going to ask him to come on the sofa.
Thank you, it's really kind.
Okay, so why aren't you still at Savills?
Um, so, I mean, COVID was a difficult time for everyone, wasn't it? I think, and I think it was like a fishbowl thing. It accentuated a lot of feelings and stuff like that. I think nobody really knew what they were doing.
It was scary times. I mean, a lot of firms, they put all their staff on furlough and then put the bosses to run basically three people's jobs. Was that you?
It sounds very familiar. Yes, yeah, it was, and I probably didn't handle that as well as I could, and maybe the Italian side of me, I perhaps said some things and spoke out when I shouldn't have, and I think that I fractured relationships that I'd done really well to forge over a long period of time, that, yeah, in hindsight, I probably regret.
So you wore your heart on the sleeve and expressed your opinion, which was probably in hindsight a little bit sharp. Would that be a fair comment?
I think that would be fair, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you learned from that since? What would your message be to the estate agents here who don't like necessarily their area manager? What advice would you do? Because I must admit, I've been where you are, and it didn't do me any favors either.
I've learned that I'm unemployable, and I've learned that I've got to do things my way and be totally accountable for that, which I'm completely comfortable
Even
with.
if it means you leaving a steady employed job.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't. I can't. I just don't think I can go back. And that's not. It's not a case of not believing in hierarchy and chain of command and all those things. I'm a respectful person, but I just think that I need to do things the way that I believe they should be done, and I have a sort of a strong compass with integrity. And if I feel that that's out of line or out of kilter, then I can't support that. What I would say to people in those types of organisations is, listen, there's nothing wrong with towing the party line. You can earn like a really good career and probably not have the stress and the headaches of being self-employed, but you just have to learn when to.
So basically, you left them under an agreement, and did you know what you wanted to do?
Do you know, I'd always, so I can't remember, at various junctures, I'd always wanted to own an estate agency business. And I spoke to a friend that worked at Foxtons years and years ago. I was like, I think I want to set, that's probably around the time that I started with the property development thing with my brother. I was like, what can I do now? And he was like, you have no idea how much it costs to start an agency. And I was like, okay, so I just kind of parked that because he knows what he was talking about, the guy. And then my interactions with agents over the time of being an accidental landlord, buying, selling, I just felt that overall professionalism wasn't great. And I felt that I could improve that. So at that point, I didn't know. It was a really difficult time, height of COVID, June 2020, and I'm going into the unknown basically. And I spoke to Tanya Blake, who had previously worked at Savills, although I don't think our paths crossed. And she mentioned about Keller Williams, which is basically having your own business, but almost like a pay-as-you-go franchise. And that was really exciting for me.
What did your missus say about you wanted to start your own business? Because remember, it was only a few years ago that you set it up because you wanted to have a steady income. Because you could have just gone to another firm, couldn't you?
I could have done, and there's a sort of a bit of a. So during my time at Savills, unfortunately, me and Raf's mum separated. So at the point that I left Savills, I'd found a new partner, who coincidentally worked at the same firm. So she was fully sort of supportive of seeing the journey, seeing what happened.
So she works where? She used to work at Savills, did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Workplace romance.
well, yeah, not initially, but yeah, it just came about like that.
Wife and I met at William H. Brown. So
Oh, really? Okay.
Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, I think she just thought it was all exciting. And my partner at the time, and Raf's mum and I have still got a really good relationship as well. So I think she trusts me to make the right decision and know that I'd always have Raf's best interests at heart. So yeah.
Weren't you scared?
Do you know? No, not initially. I was excited, and I thought the money I've got in the bank that will last me more than 6 months, and based on the economic model that I've done with Tanya, I'm going to start earning some decent money within 6 months. So that dovetails quite nicely. Unfortunately, that money dwindles a lot quicker than you think it will, and the actual steady income takes a lot longer. And that 6 month point was where I started being petrified.
What was going through your head?
All of the usual questions. This isn't going to work. I'm going to have to go back into employment. I don't really want to do that. And it's just, that sort of self-fulfilling prophecy.
You obviously came out the other side because you sat here now, your numbers look really good. What did you do to get through that?
What did I mean, I came out with some harebrained ideas at the start. I thought if I can get individual rooms onto Rightmove and there's no other one doing that, I'm just going to, the pound signs are going to come rolling in. And that was an absolute disaster. I think I really knuckled down and just kept going. I think the tipping point for the business was when somebody put a testimonial or review on a local Facebook group. And that was then when the phone actually started to ring, rather than us having to do 7, 8, 9 handwritten notes through a door to get someone's attention. What
would your message be to any agent listening to this or watching this who's at that really low point?
Yeah, keep going. And also don't spread yourself too thin, because that's what I did at the start. And
your patch was too big?
Yeah, but I didn't even have a patch. I was selling a studio in West Drayton. I was selling a friend's house in Hemel Hempstead. And, I was just all over the place for fairly nominal fees. So yeah, I would just say don't spread yourself thin. Concentrate on 2 or 3 lead generation methods and be absolutely consistent with them.
What key experiences in your previous jobs have really helped you with your own estate agency?
The accountancy for sure, in terms of understanding a P&L on a balance sheet, that's been absolutely invaluable. But without question, I see estate agency as a customer service industry. I've said that. I think I said that on Simon's podcast. It's not a sales industry. So all of those customer services and learning to help people, learning to arm them with information, those types of things, that's what's really helped me.
Looking back at your career, what one skill has been absolutely vital for you to be where you are today?
Empathy. Without question, empathy. Because some people...
Describe empathy to someone that doesn't actually know what that means.
I see it as like 4 of us, or however many stakeholders are in a transaction, and being able to literally separate yourself from your position, sit in your seat and understand how you feel about that particular instance, and then being able to find a way. So spend some time sitting in each seat and then find a way that something in the middle makes you okay with what we're going to do next.
Would you say most estate agents have those sort of skills?
Perhaps they do. I think that, and I've said this, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, the model doesn't allow them to, if they do have that quality, it doesn't allow them to display it. Because they're working with far too many properties at one time. They've got these ridiculous KPIs. They're motivated to get a board up somewhere rather than actually helping someone. It's these crazy metrics that they're judged by.
I mean, the estate agency is very much a relationship-based business. What key lessons about people and communication have you carried forward from your earlier roles into managing your client relationships today, over and above empathy?
So one of the things I did at Middlesex FA, it's a bit of a roundabout way of answering that question, but we'd get horror stories of an under-10s match where the parents were drinking and fighting, and like they're not even meant to be taking score. So instead of, what I did was, but we'd also get some really lovely testimonials about the opposition being really sporting, the referee being great. And what I did was I'd collate them and send out a monthly good news letter. So what have I done? I've tried to sort of promote that it doesn't have to be, because everyone's kind of like just accepting it. The process in this country is just flawed. It's rubbish. It can't be changed. It's antiquated. I've come in there because I don't have an agency background. I'm like, well, there's bits that we can change here. We can get upfront information. We can give that to the buyers at the point that they want to make an offer. We can get people locked into a reservation agreement to give people security between offer acceptance and exchange of contracts, which otherwise doesn't exist. So there's mechanisms that we can absolutely change.
What will I see in 10 years' time when I ask you back on the sofa?
In me, I just hope I make it, to be fair. I hope that there'll be like some sort of property logbook, like you go and buy a car and you can advertise it on Auto Trader, or you'll get a premium because it's got a full service history. I hope there's something like that with the property, and it's just an easy, unique URL that allows people to get all of the information based on that property and its history.
What about you, though?
Me?
Yeah. What will I see in 10 years' time with you?
I hope that I'm a bit less stressed and a bit happier, and I hope that I'm not as overwhelmed. I hope that I can have...
Are you overwhelmed at the moment?
I can be, and I think I bring that on myself because I'm not a good delegator, so I have to look inwardly and say, what can I do differently?
So are you a perfectionist?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's your biggest Achilles heel?
Yeah. Yeah, perfectionist and a bit of a control freak, yeah.
Okay.
Not a good combination.
How are you going to let that one go?
I'm working with coaches.
Yes.
I recognise my weaknesses and I really want to work on them and make them better. So I'm working with Matt Baldock. And I think in any other walk of life, you want to be better at tennis, golf, go to the gym, you get a personal trainer. I think we frown upon business coaches or life coaches in this country, but in most other developed Western worlds, it's commonplace. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hope that I can change those old habits for the better.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.